Hey everyone, welcome back to the High Five a Day podcast. Here with Alex Reid, investor, mortgage broker, and the creative loan guy, as he likes to call himself. We're going to get more on that later. But super excited for today's episode. Hopefully, everyone listening can learn a thing or two. Alex has some great expertise to share with us, so super excited for today's episode. Alex, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, appreciate having me.
So just to kind of jump into it for all my listeners that don't really know who you are, just love to just kind of introduce yourself and share a little bit about what you do and who you are.
My name's Alex Reid. I am 28. I've been in the mortgage industry in Colorado now, where I'm at, for going on a little over 5 years now. But I actually started. My father was in the mortgage industry, and used to make cold calls for him when I was in, I believe, eighth grade. And he used to just have me call during refi booms, and I got to taste the commission, got to either get paid per call or per closed lead. I took the per closed lead, and just ended up sticking with it and grinding, and went to school and didn't need my degree, but went to it for business and ended up coming out and ended up in the same industry.
Well, awesome. That's awesome. What did you end up getting a degree in?
It was business administration.
Business administration.
Yep.
Gotcha. And so coming out of that, you grew up in the mortgage industry, worked, I'm guessing, through high school till college, doing that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I had pretty much since I was 16, had two jobs at a time. College, I had two or three. Also doing rugby, so I was full-time sports, full-time working, 40 to 60 hours a week, and then 80 to 100 over the summers. So definitely ended up being a good thing, transferring over into a more of a commission role where
Yeah.
working that many hours really can be helpful.
No, definitely. That's an insane work ethic right there. I mean,
Yeah,
to put
right.
all that in physically and mentally, that's crazy. Big respect.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Um, so I saw kind of like your catchphrase on your page is that you're bringing integrity back to the mortgage industry. And so I just want to hear a little bit more from you. Like, why is that your mission and motivation? What does that mean for you?
Yeah, so I mean, it kind of starts with, I mean, obviously, my father was in the industry prior to. I mean, I lived with him while he was going through the 2008 crash, doing mortgages, and of course, during that time frame, everybody in, uh, everybody was blaming loan officers, real estate agents, people in the
Yeah.
industry for everything that was happening. So, with that, I mean, I saw a lot of people who were close to him in that time frame lose their job, not have things to come back to because they weren't performing at a level of
Mhm.
integrity during that time frame. Whereas, I mean, my father didn't really have too much of a hiccup because he was telling people, hey, these negative amortization loans that people were doing back then, which is why people are upside down, was putting people in bad situations, and that wasn't happening as much to his clients, which is just based on him just trying to be honest, even if he could get the approval and things of that nature. So I think that time frame gave the mortgage industry, especially, a bad name. A lot of 2008 was
Yeah.
blamed on the mortgage professionals, so gave them a bad name. And then I see now, I mean, we're 17 years removed. It feels like a long time, but in in the grand scheme of things, it's really not that long ago. Yet,
Yeah.
I see people all the time posting things like no underwriting fee, no origination fee, and these things to where it looks like there's no fees. They're telling you, oh, we're not charging an underwriting fee, but there's no way to not charge an underwriting fee. It just means it's built into the rate. So, how I'd like to do it is be upfront with people, let you know what all of your costs really are, and let you make your decisions from there and how you're gonna either raise your interest rate to cover some of those costs, but don't hide the fees. I mean, that's part of the issue is if I just say, hey, here's the best option, listen to me, I can be steering, and I see too many people in industry do that. Whereas, I want people to try to make an educated decision. Which, I mean, in that terms, is my job is just to educate and let you make the decision, right? So,
No, I think that's awesome. And I think that, and I mean, people don't just do that, right? We-
yeah,
We're as human beings, we don't usually tend to help other people out that much. So why is that important to you? I'm guessing that's something that you live in every aspect of your life, not just what you do day to day as a job, but like why you kind of went into it a little bit. You saw how that helped your dad, but why is it still important to you as you are growing your career?
Yeah, so probably a couple of things. I mean, one, as I've grown, and especially in this role and working with first time home buyers and first time investors and things of that nature, I realize not everybody was as fortunate as I was to have the knowledge just because I heard my dad on the phone in the car, right? So,
Right.
what was normal, eighth grade knowledge for me, people don't know as 35-year-old home buyers. And so I'm, grateful for the information and knowledge that I have and want to, help other people in figuring that information out as well. But I mean, that also kind of ties into, I mean, I'm a true believer in, what comes around goes around. If I'm
Yeah.
truly out for everybody's best interest, then I'm going to, in 5 years, tenfold what I would have done trying to nickel and dime every person, right?
Right.
If my only goal is to close the transaction in front of me and make an income, yeah, I'll make an income today, but what's that going to do down the line? I'm not going to have, for me, that means not repeat customers because they're not going to be happy, right? And so,
Hmm.
again, it goes around, comes around. If I can give people a better experience today, it will serve me in the future, even if it's, a type of delayed gratification.
No, I think that's awesome. I mean, I just want to say it's working for you. I was kind of going through your stuff and how you present it, and I'm like, man, when I'm getting my first house here in the next year or two, I think I know who I'm going to.
Right.
So you probably got yourself a client here in the next little bit.
Love to hear it. Yeah, and it has been good. I mean, it's been it felt like a slow start when I
Yeah.
started full commission. It was really only in, gosh, I think I switched out of my salaried role in 2022, but I still kept a second job during that time because I was nervous to make the leap. So 2023
Right.
was the year I really made the leap and switched. And I mean, just the growth in under 2 years. I mean, I closed more business in January of this year than I did the entire year of 2023. So, and that was, I mean, solely from a majority of the business that came in that month was from repeat clients and past referrals and like word of mouth stuff, not even the social media and the other things I'm doing to try to get business that month, which is like honestly I enjoy that more because like yeah, it's great to get a random lead off of social media and things of that nature that helps pay the bills, right? But if somebody comes to me because they were referred by somebody else that I was able to get them to trust me enough to refer, it's it feels better. And then of course, I mean, when it turns into business, that's great too. So
Oh, that's super awesome. And like, what would you say changed? Maybe not necessarily inside of you, but what changed for you? Going from that shift to being able to create that income yourself after taking that leap of faith fully into that versus, hey, I'm going to hold on to this a little bit because, you know, what if what if I shoot myself in the foot,
for
So
sure.
what changed in you to really create that benefit?
I think the biggest thing, and it sounds cheesy, but I mean, it truly is mindset, right? I mean, I think at that point in time, like it was all the doubts. That was why I kept the job, like you said. I mean, if I had a bad month and I'm full commission, well, I could go work some extra shifts at my hourly job because I get paid for my time directly, right? So it was a
Right.
way that if the bills were coming due and I didn't have any loans in the pipeline, it could keep me safe. And then the mind shift there in my mindset was just believing that it was going to come, right? And believing that
Yeah.
what I was doing was truly going to help people. The way I look at it now is like if people work with somebody else, I feel as though other people are doing a disservice, right? Like I truly feel like I'm the best option, and that mindset shift in terms of not only am I the best option, but I'm doing this to help people has made it so. I mean, I just had to hire people to my team because I have more business than I know what to do with, which is a great problem to have
Yeah.
as a business person, right? So,
Yeah, no, that's super cool. I love that you're able to recognize and point that out because like you say, I think a lot of times we discredit that, we discount it because it sounds cheesy, but
Right.
it really, it's amazing to me how much that mindset and believing in yourself and having faith that, when I do something good, good things are going to come back to me, how much that really affects you. And I think it's just something that we don't apply enough in so many different places.
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, especially, I mean, in my past life, I mean, like I mentioned, I worked many jobs, just worked hard. And you don't need the mindset for that. Like at that point, I was just like, I can do it. I can grind it out. And
Yeah.
you can grind out an hourly position and do things like that. And yeah, it might suck, but you can push yourself through it. But that's not going to help you get to that next level, both in business, but also spiritually as well. So,
No, 100%. I mean, personally, like it's something I'm going through right now myself. I work for a business consulting company, kind of on the management side, and I've kind of been holding on to it, just writing it out, because I was supposed to go to law school here in the fall. And within the last couple of weeks, I've kind of shifted. Um, I got to be out with the team a little bit more, and so I was just seeing what they were doing, and so I just was able to create more of a belief that like, hey, I get to be part of this great thing, and so
for sure.
well, and hold on to it. So I get to let go of some other things that were kind of holding me back, and grab onto some new things that are going to carry me forward. So totally get where you're coming from, and I think
Scary and
it's
exciting, right?
perfect. Yeah, very scary, very exciting, and I think that fear is kind of indicative, like, this is where I need to jump into it and have a little bit more faith and eradicate that fear, and it's going to turn into something great.
For sure.
I I saw the other day you made a post, the trend that's going around, like I took myself to coffee, my like 5 years ago self out to coffee, and so I was kind of reading through it, and so it seems like it would appear that, within a recent amount of time you've gone through some pretty big changes and built yourself into something that you're pretty proud of now. And so I was just kind of curious. I guess a lot of the questions I've asked have kind of been along this line, but what made you decide that you wanted more, that you were like worth more? Like what changed in there?
You know, I think I think the biggest thing for me was about, gosh, 2.5 years ago now. I did the 75 hard challenge, right? And with that, of course, I mean, at that point in time, I mean, it's crazy to think it was only 2.5 years ago, but 2.5, 3 years ago, I mean, I was still the guy going out and having a good time 3, 4 days a week and making it to
Yeah.
work and just living life kind of, I don't know, just on the slower pace, one like having fun, right, and doing all of
Yeah.
that, and then I did, we did the 75 hard, and that really, I think that's where the shift in mindset came, but it also showed, I mean, you do 75 days of, I mean, one, no drinking, sticking to a diet and working out every day. I mean, in a 75-day time frame, and by no means was I a big guy. I'm, similar build to where I was before, but I lost 19 pounds of fat and gained 11 pounds of muscle in 75 days. And it just showed me
Wow.
how, you know, doing something consistently can lead to big changes. And that's in a relatively short amount of time, right? So I think I just started to apply that more to my business following that. And it was just do one thing better each day, have one new thing to do each day. And then, I mean, in a 2 year time frame, that built my business from doing $5 million a year to, I mean, my goals this year are to try to surpass 60 million, which is,
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
a 12x in less than 2 years, right? So
Well, that's awesome. Congratulations.
yeah, so I mean, that's goals, and we make our goals difficult to try to hit, reach, but yeah, I mean, just being able to see those changes in such a short period of time is like, man, if you apply that to a 2 year span, a 5 year span, a 10 year span, I mean, where can you end up in, 5 years from now if you just get a little bit better each day?
Yeah, no, I totally. That's an awesome story. It's super, super powerful, really. I mean, first, props, congratulations to you for those changes that you were able to make and see in those 70 days, 5 days physically. But it's so cool to see how it's carrying you forward and letting that mindset change. I've heard people talk about specifically like the 75 hard challenges, like for some people it's not worth it because they like so committed, they do so good for 75 days and they complete the challenge, and then as soon as it's over, they just go right back to who they were before. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
what was the point? And so it's it's cool to see that, when people recognize I use this as a catalyst for change and for growth. And I use this to help me build something that I don't have yet, not to like create some false reality that I'm not going to continue. And so I think that's super awesome that you're able to do that and you're continuing to do that, which not a lot of people do.
You got to learn to also love the process, right? I mean, I think that was part of the shift too, is, everybody has these big goals. Everybody wants to close the deals, make the money, and look at the vision, right? But if you don't find at least a little bit of joy along the path, I mean, how are you going to truly get there? If you hate it, you're going to give up at some point, and that's kind of like what you're saying with like reverting back after the 75 hard. Usually, if you just hated that whole 75 days,
Yeah.
of course you're not going to continue it. Did I enjoy going outside and walking in negative 15-degree weather? No, it was awful. So I mean, I don't do that very often, but I still try to go to the gym every day and at least do one of the workouts, right? So it's finding the little pieces of, like, you don't have to necessarily follow it for life, but
Yeah.
find where you can enjoy it.
No, 100%. 100%. And how has that changed, like the way you interact with the people that you work with, that you co-work with, but the people that, are your clients? How has that affected how you approach them? And like you see that they're going through hard times, that they have some limiting belief. How do you use that kind of growth over the last couple of years to help and support them?
I think it can be a way of motivation, but also a way of like sympathizing and knowing that, I mean, because part of it too is, especially when I'm dealing with a client, right, is they only see where things are at today. They don't know that only 2 years ago I was in a very different space, right? So being able to be like, hey, this is where I was 2 years ago. If we can just make these changes, I mean, in a client scenario, a lot of times that might be somebody stumbled on a tough time. They don't quite have good credit score, good savings, and sometimes you have to build a plan. It's like a 3 or 4 or
Yeah.
5 month plan to build you out of it. But I mean, not that long ago. I mean, I graduated college in 2019. I had student loan debt. I had all of my credit cards maxed out at the time. Credit was shot, and I mean, I too, not that long ago, had to build myself up to being able to buy my first house, which, I mean, I didn't get to do until March of 2023 because of the choices that I made prior. So people look and see, I've purchased, I think, 5 or 6 properties in the last 2 years, and people see that at 28, and that looks great, but I didn't start until 2 years ago, right? So it's not like I've been doing this for forever. I got in with the low interest rates, the low prices, and all of that. So it helps me sympathize with people, but also, I mean, in a coworker environment, I think it's more of motivation more than anything. Just being around. I mean, the place I work at Aslan, I mean, I love the people we work with. We actually just yesterday had our $1 million club for anybody who closes $1 million in a month. We all go and do an event. We ended up at the Olympic trials for curling, and that was our event for the week. And it was just a bunch of us hanging out, right, and talking, and it was just like a good group collaboration. And I think I've switched from being that person who was learning from all of them to like now trying to be the motivator because of all of the momentum I've been able to progress with.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool transition, especially like personally. Kind of just you feel fulfilled when you get to recognize that you are helping people now, and you get to see that. And for you, why has it been fulfilling to, not only help the people on your team, but like take extra care to go and help these people that are trying to purchase a property or, get their first home? Because, there's not a lot of people that are doing stuff like that, like, helping people set up a multi-month plan so they can get their first house. Most people would turn them away within a few seconds.
Right. Yeah, and for me, I mean, again, I mean, it comes both ways. Is, I mean, one, Again, not that long ago that I got my first place. So
Right.
with the help of my leaders, of course, me being in the company that I'm able to do my own loans, my leaders were the
Right.
ones who were able to help me to that process. So I think that's a big reason why I want to continue. But also, I mean, it's good business too, in the sense of these are, these are, a lot of these people are going to be clients for life. I mean, I recently had a client who probably, they were just on a tough time. They co-signed on a loan for a parent and they defaulted, and now they're trying to buy their first home, and everybody was denying them, right? And we were able to figure out a creative way. The interest rate's a little bit higher for the short term. We already have a plan to refinance in 6 months to get them to a lower interest rate, but every other lender told them that they weren't going to have this. And I mean, they just moved into their property. Actually, they're moving in tomorrow because they closed last week, and they start moving in tomorrow. And just like seeing them and posting them posting pictures of popping champagne at their property, like, not only is a good feeling for me, but like as a business person as well. I mean, sure, they're first time home buyers. They're probably not going to buy anytime soon, but they're similar age frame as me. They'll probably buy a couple more times in our lifetime. And I mean, after you do something like that for somebody, I mean, that's going to be somebody who's going to want to continue to use you, right? So I think both business wise, but also just to feel fulfilled and helping people. It makes, as much as I love the numbers, I'm very much a numbers guy. I enjoy running all of the numbers with everybody. There's just like a different kind of joy when you can get somebody to the table that maybe shouldn't be there, or not shouldn't be there, but other people would have overlooked.
Yeah. 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 No, I think that's super cool. It just kind of illustrates, you play the long game by putting in the effort in the short run.
For sure.
And those tiny little things, those 1% changes that you're talking about, those are the ones that, like, if you consistently do that for a short period of time, it's gonna blow up exponentially over a long period of time. And I think that's super evident in what you're saying. You're helping all these people, short term seems pretty insignificant, almost, you're just throwing them a favor, but in the long run, it's gonna turn on its head and
For
take
sure.
off, and you're gonna have so much benefit from that. It's super cool. For you, being in an industry that a lot of people are unfamiliar with, how do you approach, helping people feel comfortable around that? Because it's hard to take, kind of an obscure topic, something that people may even be kind of fearful about, and then turning that into something that they can understand and consume. Like, what's your approach to making people feel like they understand, and making them feel like that they're heard and important in the conversation?
Yeah, so I think in terms of helping people understand, I've always thought myself as a bad teacher. Which, funny enough, prior to being prior to going in full into sales, my position within my company was a product specialist and trainer. So I trained everybody, and I felt like I was the worst trainer in the world because I was super critical of myself, right? And everybody else gave me good feedback, and they're like, "Alex, what are you talking about?" Right? And so I tried to listen to some of my coworkers that I had helped train, and how they felt I did a good job, right? And took that and brought that to the clients. And a lot of that is, I mean, a lot of people want to just sell you, right? I'll make more money if you buy a bigger house, right? Because we get paid on based on percentages of the loan amounts and things of that nature. So I'm going to make more money if you buy a $600,000 house versus a $400,000 house. But I'll go over the finances with clients and be like, listen, maybe we should. Right now, you're paying $2,400 a month in rent. Maybe we shouldn't make your mortgage payment be $3,600. I mean, you're jumping $1,200, and just talking them through their finances as if it's truly their life and their situation, rather than just they're a number I want to go put on the board, right? I mean, I could, if I treat everybody like that, yeah, I'd push everybody. Oh, yeah, you can afford a $700,000 house. Why don't we just look there, right? And that would then end up putting people in tough scenarios. And I think people respond well to that as well. Is like listening to what they want, they need, but also sometimes the hard truths of, hey, not going to tell you not to buy this, but looking at your finances, here's where I think we might be better off, right? And
Yeah.
I think people respect that, and people want to listen because then they're like, okay, well then maybe this person is really here to help me, not just make a quick dollar.
Yeah, no, that's really cool because I think most people in sales positions don't have that kind of opportunity or ability um, to like be cognizant of that even, and to be dealing with like such large sums of money for people that aren't necessarily, having a lot of income. Because you get in like
Yeah,
it's like a B2B sales space. It's like everybody's just trying to sell everybody at the highest price you can because
for sure.
the money's coming. But so I think that's really cool, and how cognizant you are of that and how you get to treat people because you get to see their situations, you get to understand what their hopes and dreams are, and then you get to be a big part of making that a reality. So I think that's just super awesome, super admirable, really.
Yeah, and it's really great to be able to not only work with people on that, but also sometimes it's helping them figure out what they even want. Sometimes people don't
Yeah,
think about it, right? I mean, if all you're ever thinking about is renting an apartment, right? You are always just thinking of the apartment in the building next door or down the street or this or that. And you don't really think about maybe you want a house with a yard, right? And it's just like different things, and being able to chat with people on it and helping them figure it out is cool. And I mean, it's a position of, like you said, in a lot of B2B sales, you're just trying to sell, right? And like what I'm grateful for about and what I do is I get to sell something that people want, right? I don't have to push
yeah,
anybody to try to force buy it. People are coming to me because they want to buy a property. It's just my job to figure out, you know, help figure out what property and what might be best financially. As I mean, obviously, by no means an expert, but as a licensed financial person, hopefully be able to give insight that others might not otherwise know.
yeah, yeah. No, I think that's a great point. And how do you help people like recognize what they want and what they need? Because they're coming to you with that. And how do you help people really recognize like, hey, this is what I think is going to be the right situation fit for you?
A lot of times, just a lot of questions, right? I mean, a lot of times I'm not asking how much house they're trying to get approved for. My first question is usually, what are you comfortable paying, right? Because most people just look on Zillow, they see a house they like, and they see a price tag, and those numbers are big enough that if you're making $50,000 a year, you can't fathom $500,000, right? But
Yeah,
if you see a $500,000 house, you're like, okay, cool. Those numbers don't make sense, and we want to go for that. But if we figure out what payment you want first and work around that, that's a big way to help people figure out what they're comfortable with before they even start looking at a price point. Because I mean, at the end of the day, who really cares how much the house is? Because again, that you're not paying that property off for 30 years. What should be important is how is that going to affect you in your day to day life, which is your monthly payment. So
yeah,
questioning is always the big thing, and just let everybody else tell me what they want, and then I tell them what I hear, basically, right? And because people don't think about it, it's the same
yeah.
way of it's the same way of being on a podcast. You're asking the right questions to make uh, that other people might not think about to get the true answers out of people.
Yeah, for sure. And do you find that, that approach to things kind of affects the way you interact with people in other aspects of your life and how you do other things?
I would say probably. I definitely find myself. I don't know if you know Chris Voss. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, so he in a lot of his speaking tactics, obviously, in being a negotiator, and how he trains you to negotiate, right, is kind of in a way what I do on the day to day is just ask and listen. You spend more time in a pause than you do speaking in most
Yeah.
situations that you're trying to sell or negotiate, right? So,
Yeah, no, I love Chris Voss on a
yeah,
separate note, but I think I love I love how powerful questions can be, and I find myself oftentimes I get so caught up in asking questions that I forget to participate in other dialogue, and I don't make just a regular statement. I'm just always asking question after question, and
Yeah.
some people get upset at me. But yeah, I think that's just really powerful. Just being able to curate questions and talk to people and helping them recognize and understand what they want. Because I think when you apply that in so many other places, um, personally, for me, I think that's really fulfilling to help people know what they want and how they can accomplish it. And so getting to do that on the day to day, I can only imagine, how, finishing every day of work, even if it's been a hard day, there's going to be some degree of, hey, like I did this, I helped this person, and they're all the better for it.
For sure. And it definitely, it for sure does come around. I mean, obviously it can be tough sometimes, but with all of these little win stories of people who didn't think they could get in, or, were almost in a situation where, run into times where people are, their lease is coming up and they're under contract and something's up with the property and we have to get it figured out in time. Otherwise they have to go move their stuff into a hotel. Right. And being able to get people through these situations, through these tough times. And of course, I mean, generally speaking, you're making the biggest financial decision you'll ever make in your life, right? Is buying a house.
Yeah.
Unless you're buying a Lamborghini, you're probably not going to spend $500,000 in anything else in your life. So it's just, it's really good to try to help coach people through it, but then also teach people the benefits of it as well. Because I mean, obviously, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, I've purchased a few properties myself, and another thing I work with often is first-time investors and people trying to buy properties and build, generational type wealth through real estate rather than just a home or just $100 a month cash flowing asset or something like that.
Right. Yeah, those are opportunities that so many people just don't have, and you get the opportunity to put those out there and show, how powerful that is for other people. That's really cool. And kind of as we kind of bring things to a close here, one of the things that I always like to ask my guests on here, that kind of ties into what the podcast is all about, is if you're able to kind of go back, 5, 10 years, whatever it is, and talk to your former self, and give them that like pick me up, like, hey, like we've gone somewhere, like we've done something, you just need to make sure you figure out this thing, and it's going to be okay. What's that 1, 2 lessons, those truths that you hold on to that you would share with that person 5, 10 years ago?
Yeah, so I think I would say two things would probably be, one is I probably would have motivated myself to focus and stop partying earlier. One of the biggest inhibitors, I think, that stunted my growth was probably spending 3, 4 days a week drinking. And not saying that everybody has to go sober and not drink at all, but it just helps with clarity, and that's really
Yeah.
the one big thing that can be a really big catalyst. And another big thing that I would say is just focus on others before yourself. I mean, again, that was kind of a big thing that's gotten me through this, and I just truly believe that by doing that, like I said earlier, what goes around comes around. And if you can just focus on building everybody else up, everybody will build you up twice as big. So that's going to help you in the long run much more than anything else.
Those are perfect. I love that. Finding clarity and building up others, which in turn builds up yourself. I think those are two great messages to end on, and I hope everybody listening can take those from Alex and really apply them. So those are two awesome things. So before we finish out here, Alex, for anybody that's listening that wants to follow you and see what you're doing and be a part of it, maybe even reach out for your services, where's the best place to find and contact you?
Yes, so best place to find or contact me, I'm on Facebook and Instagram mostly. I'm on every TikTok and LinkedIn and things like that as well. But it's just Alex Reid Mortgage, as well as alexreidmortgage.com. That has all my information, free guides, and with those free guides, I mean, it's both for investors as well as first-time home buyers that can even just learn without even having to talk to me, because I know that should be the first step before you feel too pressured into moving forward with anything.
Perfect. Well, you heard it here, folks. Anybody wants to find Alex, listen to him. That's where you can do it. And hope you've learned a couple things today. I know I have. And for everybody that's listening, thanks for joining in, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Nathan.